afternoon, good morning and good evening, and welcome back to WCF TV. Here today to wrap up what happened in round 2 of the under-18s Capoeira solo competition, Joga Legal. Now where we left it at round 1, we had 13 nations competing in this event. At the end of round 2, we're now down to 7. Unfortunately, Australia, Hong Kong, Italy, New Caledonia, USA and the Netherlands are out of contention. In round 1, we also saw the conclusion of the under-18 girls category, with the victory going to Estonia for gold and Brazil for silver. In round 3, we already know that there's going to be 2 more finals to be played, with the under-14 girls and the under-16 boys. But let's see what happened in round 2 and how we got there. There would be at least one Russian going through to the semi-final. But with Diana Tereshchenko winning over Laurie Linden from the Netherlands and being about 800 points ahead from the judges from the rest of the contenders, it's up to Sofia Gomes from Portugal to pull out something special in round 3. Coming from the quarterfinals, we already knew that the semi-final would consist of at least 2 Azerbaijan players and 1 Russian. The only uncertainty was in the hands of Japanese player Taichi Tarumi, who unfortunately lost by 300 points from the judges. Now the 4 contenders coming into the semi-final, 3 Azerbaijan and 1 Russian, were all fairly evenly scored by the judges in the quarterfinal. It's all in the hands now of Russian competitor Artem Berezin to make sure that this is not going to be an all-Azerbaijan final. Despite 6 out of the 10 players from round 1 having a bye, the 2 victors from round 1, Portugal's João Cavalcante and Azerbaijan's Ali Takizagi, have both won their quarterfinal matches. Now, as we move into the semi-final, these 2 boys are in different brackets. Could it be that they may come head-to-head in the final? It's also interesting to note that both João and another Azerbaijan player, Dilgan Ismailov, were both beaten by their Japanese competitors in the last round by 200 points from the judges. The only reason they make it through to the semi-final is because of the match public votes. Well done, gents. The game to watch in the quarterfinals wasn't as close as anticipated. Gabriela Sampaio won with 400 points from the judges ahead of her competitor Sabrina Lopez. With Japan and US out of the competition, it's a Brazil versus Brazil and Portugal versus Portugal semi-final, which will lead us to another Brazil versus Portugal final. The exact same final that's happening in the same age category in the boys category, under 16 boys. Mihasen Aliyev, the victor of the only game played in round 1, unfortunately could not hang on to that victory in round 2 when up against Benin's Namboji Lawal, who won by 300 points from the judges. Namboji is up against Christian Kalitsky of Estonia in the semi-final, which will be interesting to watch, as these 2 boys scored within 100 points of each other in their respective quarterfinal matches. In the matches between Brazil's João Montalvão and Estonia's Mikhail Domkov, the players actually scored a tie from the judges' points, with 3,400 apiece. However, it was João moving on to the semi-final, having received 43 public votes to Mikhail's 4. That concludes our quarterfinal matches. Now let's look at the semi-final matches that were played in round 2 and see who's going to be moving on to the finals come January 4th. As predicted, Akari Dachi from Japan blazed through the semi-final with 4,500 points from the judges. This doesn't mean that she should not worry about her opponent coming into the final, Iris Areas from Portugal. Now, while Akari scored 800 points more than Iris in the last round, it doesn't mean that she should be comfortable, when Iris and her 721 public votes might just have what it takes to steal that victory away in the final. knew that this would be a Brazil versus Portugal final, we had no idea that the semi-final would be such a nail-biter. In the Portuguese corner, Carlos Eusebio took the bracket away from Rafael Valentim by 200 points from the judges. That margin was narrowed to only 138 points after the public vote. The clincher, however, was in the Brazil versus Brazil corner. Usley Silva and Mateus Ferreira. They both scored 3,500 points from the judges, but it's Usley that will take on the victory and move into the final by only 47 public votes. And that's the roundup for round 2. All remaining competitors now have until January 3rd to plan, train, record, and submit their next videos for the next round of voting. Let's take another look at the current standings. 6 nations so far have been eliminated from competition: Australia, Hong Kong, Italy, Netherlands, New Caledonia, and the USA. Estonia still stands on top of the medal tally with 1 gold medal, followed by Brazil with 1 silver. Before we leave you today, we have a special message from our president, Balão Salles Neto, as well as some message from our esteemed masters of the Council of Masters.